singer and lyricist of Snow Patrol, Gary Lightbody, and journalist, author and podcaster Pandora Sykes.
Especially on a Monday night. Gary, it's such a pleasure to be speaking with you. I mentioned just before I came out that 18-year-old me would not be able to believe that I'm talking to someone who wrote songs that I listened to over and over and over and cried to over and over and over again. So, no, essential. A heartbreak song with you. No, but as everyone here will attest, you've written such incredible, beautiful music for so long, and it's such a joy to now be able to hold your book in our hands and to hear a little bit more about it. I want to start by asking you something fairly obvious, which is, why a book, why now? Because reading it, I thought you are such a natural prose writer. I kind of wondered, not why have you waited so long, you're not 108, but sort of why at this point, not, I don't know, earlier or later, why now?
I could never sit still long enough to write a book. I could... we're on timer. We're on a timer. Yeah, I didn't have the... Is that annoying? Anyone? Is there a wee bit of tape? I could tape it up. If it keeps it from being annoying, I'll tape it up. Yeah, no, I didn't... Oh, it's another mic? Oh, look at this fancy one. Hello. Oh, look at that. Sorry to have the fancy one.
No, I feel like if anyone can demand a specific microphone, it is you.
I promise I won't get up from the seat. I'd written quite a few first chapters. They're all under the bed. You know, like there's maybe 20 first chapters, and I never had the determination and the patience to sit and finish any of it. And this time round, I felt like the songs on this record kept spilling over the sides of the music. The lyrics kept going after, and I'd heard many stories of songwriters infinitely more talented than me, somebody like Leonard Cohen or Michael Stipe, who wrote 50 verses for a song and then used 3 or 4 of them. But that was never me. I would just write to the melody, and when I was finished writing to the melody, I would stop. But this time it just kept going. It just kept going, and I thought there was something else in it. And that's when I thought maybe it was also a book, but it didn't start out that way.
It's sort of billed as a companion book to the album of last year, but it very much stands alone, I think, as a memoir, and it's split into, you've got 4 sections for your dad, and then 4 sections of time, hope, love, death. All the things, everything really, in that, all the things. It is obviously precipitated by you losing your father, and a lot of it is about the grief of that time, but it also feels like you're having a reckoning with yourself and your life. When you were approaching the book, did you go in thinking this is going to be a book just about my dad, and then it sprawled into being, it can't be about my dad if it's not about me as well? How did it kind of change as you were writing it?
The album isn't about my dad. The album, in fact, the only song that was written about him was a song called Waking Up Now, which we took off the album. There's an extended edition of the album that comes out on the same day as the book, and that will have Waking Up Now on it. But the album sort of purposely doesn't really talk about my dad. My dad's passing felt like it's very much its own thing, but it also is connected to the album. It's the kind of the numbness that I felt after he left was a completely barren landscape for me as far as writing. I didn't write any songs for a year, and then when I finally came to terms with him being gone, I started to write songs again almost immediately. So the two things are connected, but they're also distinct from each other, and which is why in the book that it sort of goes backwards and forwards through time to his passing and to making the album. It feels like two different things, but they connect together at the end. Not to give the end away, sorry. Damn it.
You go right back, when you're telling these lovely stories about your dad, you go right back to when you're a tiny boy. What was that? Was it deeply nostalgic, writing it? Kind of weaving in all the memories of your life in order to tell his story, and then to also look at life, death, and all other things?
Yeah, because the book, the parts about him are mostly about my regret for not apologizing for my behavior as a younger man. He was he was the whetstone that I sharpened my blade against in terms of my political identity, my cultural identity. He was everything that in my younger days that I sort of stood against. He was a conservative, I was a liberal, never the twain shall meet. Every argument across the dinner table refereed by my mother in tears. I realised what a waste of time it was. And that's the deep regret that I feel, because by the time I even realised that I wanted to apologise to him, his dementia was too advanced. But, so that's kind of what the book is about, me coming to terms with that. But yeah, when I was writing it, reliving all those stories of like growing up with him, the man that he always was. He was the guy that showed up for everybody. He was the guy that was always there for everyone. He wasn't the guy that said, I love you, ever. But he was the guy that showed up when you needed him, and that's how you knew he loved you.
I sort of wonder if the I love you is a generational thing, because my parents would never say I love you either. They would think it's really weird. You've got like God bless and everything like that, but never an I love you. You've got such lovely stories with him as well. Well, some of them sort of deeply troubled you, like when you watched Jaws with him.
Yes.
And you're 9, and then you sort of take to bed with a fever. It's quite Victorian, your response.
Yes, I did. I probably should have. My mum should have called for the doctor with the leeches, maybe, and the smelling salts. I did kind of get glandular fever, and I'm pretty sure it was because of Jaws. Yeah, that's how weak my immune system was at that time in my life. Yeah, my dad showed me Jaws when I was 9, and he didn't know what it was. He just thought, we'll just watch a movie together and it'll be fun. And then, I right from the start, it is just this creeping dread. Even the violin tugs, and even I just knew, even as a 9-year-old, this isn't going to go well for anybody, definitely including me. And for some reason, he just let me watch the whole thing from behind my tiny hands. And at the end, I think he might have even said something like, that was good, wasn't it? I was like in a ball on the floor, crying, shuddering. And then I got glandular fever. I don't know if they were related, but I'm pretty sure they were. And then Jaws was everywhere. Jaws was in the water, in the bath. It was in the drink that my mum was trying to get into me because I had a fever. And for a long time in my life, I was scared of the water.
So that's maybe an early indicator that you were of porous disposition.
Yes. Yes.
The necessary sensitivity that to make you a wonderful songwriter. And you say, you touched on it just then, which I think is so admirably vulnerable of you, that you and your father basically round from the age of 15 to 35. And that, as you said, you wish you'd apologised to him earlier. And I wondered if, when I read this, I actually really saw it as a reminder to you not carry on fighting when you have elderly pet, to let bygones be bygones and appreciate the time you had with them. Were you hoping that people reading the book would sort of get a reminder to do things differently? I mean, it gave me a kick up the backside, I think.
Well,
to stop arguing.
I wish I could get some of that time back. I think it's important to rebel in your early years, but it's to learn how to be in opposition to something. I think is a good thing to learn, and our parents are usually the first thing that we become opposed to because they're telling us not to do things, and well, we want to. Those things over there, we want to do those things. Don't touch the stove. Don't tickle the shark, we want to do all those things, it was. I think from maybe 15 or 16 to like 25, that would have been enough argue. But I went another 10 years at it, trying to go for the world title. And I wish I could get 10 of those years back at the very least. And if it helps anybody put down the sword at their dining table, that'd be great, because I wish I could have.
A lot of the way you talk about your relationship with your father, though, is very funny. When, for 10 years he told you to get a real job, and then of course he had to stop saying that in 2003. But you do say you're like, he did have a point, and he could have carried on having a point if, you hadn't won that one.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is that if there are multiverses, this is the only universe in which I became a successful musician. Every other strand of the multiverse, I'm not a successful musician. So he has a point in every single other universe, for sure.
But in those other universes, I think you'd have been a successful poet or a successful novelist. You clearly have a wonderful way with words.
Well, that's very kind, but that's only 3 things I can write. There's a lot of universes.
I'm sure I can think of some more alternative jobs for you.
I'm no good at anything else. And also, that's useless, in some post-apocalyptic. I'll write you a poem. Oh no, hang on a minute. He's got a chainsaw.
You only need to be good at one thing, though, and you're actually pretty good at a couple. So, listen, I don't think I need to actually build up your ego too much. I feel like the charts hopefully have done that for you. What is so lovely about this book is that you're so incredibly honest about everything. It's amazing. I think most of us would rather crawl into a hole than admit the various ways in which we let ourselves down and let our families down. But reading it definitely felt like when your father died, it cracked something open inside you. It feels like the way you're writing about how you're sort of accessing and acknowledging things that were hard to confront before. And I wondered if part of that was when you become very successful and you're away all the time, does that allow you to kind of avoid sitting thinking about these things?
Yeah, we were always moving for many years. Momentum is great for loads of things. It's great for keeping you busy. But that busyness can sometimes really hide an awful lot of what you really need to be dealing with. And I think the momentum coupled with alcoholism, drug addiction, that was more kind of propelled by rocket fuel, you know what I mean? I probably should have been trying to be an astronaut rather than a musician. But yeah, I think getting sober and clean, and then then you start slowing down a wee bit in terms of not touring as much, and you start to take time to really dig into these thoughts. And I think that's probably where the book has come from. Actually, if I was still drinking, there's no chance that I would have been able to sit still and write it. So I'm glad for that.
You make a lot of apologies in the book to your family for not being there. How did your success change your relationship?
I wasn't there. I was hardly there. I moved. I always had a place in Bangor, my hometown, but I wasn't there. I was there less than half the year for sure. And I decided about 4 years ago that I would move home. permanently and just be there all the time. So the last 4 years I've spent at home, aside from a few gigs here and there. I wish I'd done that sooner as well. But no, actually, I don't wish that, in the sense that I really loved my time traveling around the world, especially loved my time in LA. Met a lot of wonderful people. But when I got home and finally felt like I was going to stay home, it felt like, what took you so long? That's what Belfast Loft was telling me, and that's what the forest was telling me. It's like, where have you been?
You write beautifully about the concept of home. You quote, hold on, I'm trying to read my writing. Home is where all your attempts to escape cease. You're quoting someone else.
And I give my foots.
Yeah, I thought that was, I'd never thought about it like that. And you have a really complex relationship with Belfast. I think it's some of your most beautiful writing. I'm actually just going to read a tiny bit of you to you. I loved the way that you wrote this about Belfast. In having to rebuild, reinvent, restart itself so many times, would it ever be possible for Belfast to know itself? Or conversely, does it know itself better than most other places on earth because it knows so intimately fire and pain and vengeance and forgiveness and regret and redemption? It has seen its own insides and knows them far too well. Its viscera still visible now, pink and fierce. To walk in Belfast, you get the feeling sometimes you are trudging through its turned out guts. Its heart beating on top of you so loud, it is at times all you can hear. I mean, that is poetry. I think you could write a whole book about Belfast. Why did your feelings on home and coming home feel like an important part of what you were trying to do or figure out in the book?
I think I spent quite a lot of my youth trying to get away from home because I didn't understand what was going on there. And don't worry, I'll say this very same thing in Belfast. I'm not like just say it in London because I'm safe. I'll say it when I get home too. I've said it many times. People back home know that this is how I used to feel. And I guess I'm okay saying that out loud because that's not how I feel anymore. Leaving and going to Dundee and then Glasgow and then travelling around the world, as we were very privileged to do, I got to understand what Northern Ireland is to me, what it really means to me in my heart. And I think I say in the book that it makes up a giant piece of my heart. I love the place so much, but it did take leaving to figure that out. And then when I came home, it felt like it was I'd reimagined it, and it had reimagined itself, and we both kind of met on the same plane. And it wasn't doing it for me, it was doing it for itself, but I guess we just had good timing.
Do you think you would have felt like that about anywhere that you had grown up, or was it something specific to Belfast that you just couldn't get on with at the time, but now fits for you?
Well, I mean, we were a country at war with ourselves. It's not that way anymore. I always think people put peace and harmony together in a sentence an awful lot, but they're two very distinct things. There can be peace without harmony. In fact, it normally is that way. Harmony is almost impossible, especially when you're talking about a large number of people. But peace, Northern Ireland proved to so many places that have long-running wars and conflicts in the world, it proved that it's possible to find an end to it. It's proved that it's possible through compromise and through cooler heads to actually find peace. And I'm so proud of the place and the people that found that peace. And I do believe, honestly, that we all collectively created that peace in Northern Ireland. It's not politicians telling us that now we're at peace with each other. We have to be at peace with each other as a society for it to work. 90% of people need to agree that that's a good thing. And we do, every day we wake up and there's peace. some days, just like any other place on earth, there's anger and fighting. But harmony is a much different thing, much different thing. I like to separate those two words and not use them together, because it does put an awful high bar to get over, because we're still not harmonious, but we do have peace, and that is an awful lot.
Do you think the same can be said of a person, that you can be peaceful without being harmonious? I'm trying to think what the equivalent feelings would be. I'm hoping that's Siri telling me the answer.
You've already arrived at a destination, you think?
Because you sort of talk about how you have to be in a certain state of mind to let happiness, or more accurately, contentment, which I was so pleased when I read, because I always think people get the two confused, and that contentment is actually much more what we should be aspiring to than those kind of peaks. Like, happiness is only ever a peak, it can't ever be a constant.
Yeah. It would be like you're on drugs. Everyone else would think you were on drugs if you were just happy all the time. I was on drugs all the time, but I wasn't happy. So
I like the bit when you said you did enough. What was it? There's a line where you say you did enough drugs for your life and all of our lives.
I did drugs enough for everybody, so you don't have to. Yes, I think happiness is a tricky one, because it is ephemeral, and but contentment, that's a thing to aspire to. Stillness itself, I think, is the thing that I find that's the reason why these words got written, because I was able to sit still when I never could before. So meditation and qigong and all the things that I've been taught by the wonderful Gabrielle that I mentioned in the book, that gave me a way to sit and do whatever I wanted, including nothing at all.
What was the process like of writing it compared to all the years that you've written songs? Because you mentioned a bit that normally you would come up with the melody first, and then you sort of would retrofit the lyrics to the melody, whereas with this, and actually you mentioned in the last album you wrote that differently too. You wrote the lyrics before the melody for the last album, right?
Well, we wrote the songs on the same day, the lyrics on the same day as the song. So when I first went in with, it was Johnny McDade and myself in Somerset, I think, and we were in a little house, and we're sitting. He'd written this lovely piano piece. That for anybody that knows the album, the new albums, the song ended up being called The Beginning. But he'd written a lovely piano piece. All I'd done was write the words at the beginning at the top of the page, literally because it was the first day. This is what happens sometimes. And it's as prosaic as that. And then I had written a whole bunch of notes before the record, which I never do. I've got pages and pages of notes, which I never do. Normally I come with blank paper, just blank paper. And Johnny said, why don't you write the lyrics to the song today? And he got on with making the melodies into the music into something extraordinary, and I sat behind him and wrote the lyrics. And I was able to take a line out of the notes that I had written. The line for that song was, I want to be loved without being loved. I want to be in love without being loved in return. I wrote that on the page, and now suddenly the page isn't blank anymore. It's got something on it, and the blank page is so terrifying. You know yourself. It's so terrifying that to be able to put something on it it felt like a weight had lifted off, because I've had writer's block so many times in my life. It was like, well, I don't have writer's block because there's words right there, and the rest of the song just almost like it appeared around the words, like it was just branches or roots growing out from it. And and every day that Johnny and I wrote together, we'd write a song complete by the end of the day. And I don't think we'd ever done that before. So this album was kind of like that. And then also I would be writing more lyrics after the song was done, and over time you collect a whole bunch of extra words. Not that this is just the leftovers, but
It's very good offal. even if it is just anecdotes, it would be very, very good. Were you thinking about the book at the same time as writing? So, like, had the book entered your head at that time? What was the kind of timeline on it?
Not at that point. When we first started writing, I think we were pretty close to starting. We recorded the album twice. First time didn't take. That happens sometimes. But I think around the first recording of the album, I had started to talk about maybe something. Also, I was thinking that the book would be like a long inlay card, like it would have the album in the front jacket here like that, and it would just be, I don't know, maybe like a third of that, and it would just be me writing a few thoughts about the songs, but then it kind of just started to grow from there.
How did you feel about it when you realised it was becoming a book? Did it feel very natural, or did you have a moment of, oh my god, it's a book, I'm writing a book?
You know, the first thoughts about it were, I'm not allowed to write a book, I'm not allowed to do this, surely there's somebody is there police? And
I was listening to a podcast the other day that said that in Britain, like, you have to stay in your lane. If you're in America, people would be like, yeah, write a book, host a food show. Whereas in Britain, it's like, what?
What are you
just following that.
Stay in the band, don't do books. I didn't think that I was allowed to. So it took a while before I actually said it out loud.
But you realised you weren't going to get arrested?
I thought,
There's still time.
Yes, well, I'm always waiting for that tap on the shoulder and be like, this wasn't supposed to be your life. And that some police from the other multiverse.
So does that never go, no matter how?
No.
You're still waiting for the tap. I wonder if anyone's not waiting for the tap.
I don't know. I think we're all waiting for the tap. But we did a music video around that idea a while ago. A song called "Out in the Dark." I happened to be in a conversation in a buffet line with an actor, Jack Davenport, and he said, "Oh, you know what? We'd all love to be in a band. All actors want to be in a band." And I said, "Well, why don't you come and be in our band? We'll do a video." And he was like, "What?" He said, "We're just making a new video for a song. Why don't you come in? You steal the limelight from me, and then I'll just get shoved to the side." Because that's what I felt was going to happen my entire life anyway. So we basically filmed my kind of fear, and it was really fun.
Did it exercise the fear or not?
No.
Did it increase the fear?
Yes, because he was very, very good at it.
So that's exposure. That proves that exposure therapy doesn't always work.
No, it's not.
Face the fear.
It's really funny because
anyway.
there was no conversations between us about what he was going to do when he got behind the microphone. He just went up there and was immediately great. I was like, wow, all right, like tone it down a bit.
That's very good. What you mentioned that with the album that it wasn't really about your dad, and the book very much is, not only. But when I was listening to the album and reading certain parts of the book, it became quite clear that a lot of it was about heartbreak, or about, more specifically, you referenced it earlier, kind of how if I'm loved, I have to love in return. That, you know, you write quite a lot about how you don't feel like you've been that good at it, and you don't really, it's really hard to learn how to do it. And there's various passages where you are apologising and for the things that you wish you could have said. What is it?
Yeah, that was my biggest problem, was not actually saying out loud what I was
just
thinking.
writing it in a book.
Well, yeah, writing the book like 10 years too late, or 15 years too late. It's like when I could have just said I love you instead, about 15 years ago.
Just send a link to Amazon. Or just send the book. But how does it feel to commit such kind of, it feels like such an obvious word to use, but it is such a tender book. You know, you are writing about the really tender parts of yourself and the things you've got wrong. Is it cathartic writing that? Does it feel kind of shaming in any way? Like, you mentioned at one point, which I thought was really interesting, that you wanted to be punished when you were grieving. You said, you know, I don't want this to be easy, kind of punish me for... Is there a part of you that thinks that you have to kind of laying it bare will sort of punish you in some way?
I think writing it was the punishment,
Right.
and now I feel a kind of a strange calm about the whole thing. I don't feel like I don't know if I feel forgiven by my dad. I just maybe feel like I can let go of some of those feelings. I also feel like forgiveness is mostly, I mean, obviously one should be sorry. One should think about these things and then be sorry and try and give your whole heart to the apology. And then there's been quite a few times when I've been forgiven where 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later, I go back to that thought and go, I wish I hadn't done that. It's like, but you've been forgiven, but you haven't been, because you haven't forgiven yourself. And that's the last phase of forgiveness. And what I definitely don't mean by that is offend somebody and then go, well, I'm forgiven. I mean, like, it takes time and thought and consideration and heart and then I think the last phase is like going, I have to let this go. I have to let myself move on from this. I don't know that I've ever said to myself, I am forgiven, because I don't think I could. But writing this, especially the parts about my dad, definitely helped me let go of some of the stuff I was carrying around. There's a story in this about a Buddhist teacher called Ajahn Chah, and he's walking through the forest with his acolytes, and he says to one of them, there's a big boulder up there, he said, is that boulder up there, is that heavy? And one of the acolytes says, yes, master, that is heavy. And he says, he kind of goes, he was known for being a gruff kind of guy, he went, it's only heavy if you try to lift it. And that is the thing that I have all my life. Whatever it is that's heavy up ahead, I'm going to pick it up and carry it around. And I have to start trying to, part of this journey was like learning how to put stuff down. I don't have to carry it around forever. But writing about it certainly helped ease the weight of it.
There was a part which chimes with what you were saying there, where you write that too many years of battering myself from the inside to love much of anything in there, so...
God, this book sounds depressing.
There's also loads of funny bits. There's lots of lols. It's the light and the shade. It is the light and the shade. I'll move on to cheerier things. But are you less hard on yourself now?
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. I think with the album and with the book, I was sort of mostly writing about the person that I was. Mm-hmm. It's mostly set in the past. And yes, I think I had to sort of face that person or those people at the various stages of my life. But I think now I've done an awful lot of, I don't know, I guess people use the word work, but I guess it is, just...
Well, you're reflecting. It's reflection.
Trying to be better than I was yesterday, and that's my kind of goal for the day. You know what I mean? And I also like to sort of start the day with humility. I know nothing. Please let today teach me something, and that's kind of my mantra. And I think that sort of opening that space in myself has really helped, because I used to be certain of everything. And I think certainty is really the real kind of ink that's on everything these days, and I've kind of decided that I'm no longer going to be certain about anything. I think that's
I always find that really fascinating. I'm like, how is everyone so sure of everything? I can't make up my mind on anything as I get older. You have spoken about, and this kind of chimes, I suppose, with your writing of your book, how the kind of conversation around mental health, that sort of stiff upper lip, keep calm and carry on, can be quite insidious, and that it took you to your late 30s to really consider your own mental health. Do you hope that because that is something that a lot of men experience, obviously it's changing now, but still I think sometimes it's something we talk about more than is actually, the change is actually happening on a kind of people-to-people level. Are you hoping that other young men might pick up a book and realise that it's okay to be fallible and that it's okay to stop and think about yourself and your behaviour a bit more, rather than just kind of being an autopilot?
Yeah, I mean, I was on autopilot for such a long time, and I mean, I'm not anymore. I'm pretty present most of the time, not all the time. I know that people close to me be like, but I feel like I am. I feel like you know, when that Hemingway quote, there's so many great ones, but when somebody talks, listen completely. You know, that comes into my head all the time. You know, and I think I used to be this kind of like, somebody's talking and I'm like kind of not really paying attention. And now I'm really I try my very hardest to just pay attention to everything that's going on and looking up at the buildings and looking at the trees and looking at the world around me rather than staring at my feet when I'm walking, you know, which is what I was doing for most of my life. So I think just awareness, I think, has shifted in me, and that feels like I'm more open to everything rather than thinking that I already know everything, so I don't need to be taught by the world. That's far from true.
How has that? I wondered how that has affected your relationship with anxiety as well, because you've spoken about how you've always been anxious, and in an interview with Minnie Driver earlier this year, you said, "I run so anxious. When I notice how long it's been since I've been anxious, I started to realise that happiness has taken its place, or something like contentment." And I found that really interesting because as someone also really anxious, the moment I can't feel my anxiety, I'm like, it feels like I've lost something. I'm like, oh, I gotta find that backpack of anxiety. Are you good at appreciating that feeling that you put your backpack of anxiety down rather than reaching for it, so that you've got, so you mentioned how you always have to carry something.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. The anxiety, it does feel, I used to have this thing, I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, we all experience anxiety in different ways, but I call it wire wool in my chest. That's how it would manifest, present itself, whatever. It would be this wire wool in my chest, and what I realized was, I thought, well, I need to get rid of this, so when I was drinking and taking drugs, it would go away, so there you go, there's the solution. But it never come back the next day. And what I realized was, it was trying to tell me, you're in the wrong place, you're not happy, you're not doing the right thing. It was actually a warning sign. And now when I get it, I'm immediately connected to it, and I go, all right, okay. Like if I like somebody goes, do you want to play this festival in wherever, and I'm going, yeah, that's great. And immediately I say, great. This thing comes to my chest, and I'm like, oh no, that's the wrong decision. And I go, no, sorry, I can't do that. So I really listen to it now. It doesn't happen a lot anymore, but when it does happen, I really listen to it. So yeah, it's funny to say, like, you're just feeling this lack of something. When it went away for the first time, I felt like, oh my goodness, where is it? But now it comes back, it feels a little bit like an old friend going, yeah, are you really supposed to be doing this? You know, so I kind of like it. I think I like it because it's not around very much. But if it was around
when it pops up now, so it's kind of like your gut. It's like if it doesn't get past the wire wool, then it's not the right thing.
If it gets tangled in that wire wool, then it's not happening.
So it's now turned into something quite functional.
It is. That's not to say that low-grade anxiety is sort of shop display mode, but it's the really high-grade stuff that creates that wire wool.
It's so interesting how everyone does have different words for it. I love that wire wool one, because I know exactly what you mean, but I was reading Tuppence Middleton, an actress this weekend, was calling it scorpions for her. It's when that kind of rattling of small things scurrying through her mind, and it's so interesting because it's so physical. it's a specific feeling for so many people, and that is a beautiful description. You write that you learned when you were young that the kind of way that you put it really nicely, something about a poultice, about kind of the way of moving through pain is to make art out of it, and it was a lesson that you wish you had been able to teach to your father, but you say, how do you ever teach somebody old anything?
Well, I don't think I put it in those terms, but maybe I do. Maybe I do. I'm terribly sorry.
No, very respectful.
I think I was speaking specifically about him, but yeah.
Yes, you were speaking specifically about him. Yes, sorry, that wasn't a. Either way, it didn't sound disrespectful, but I think it's really interesting when you say kind of at what point is it that you can't learn, and why would someone older want to kind of learn a lesson from someone younger anyway? But I wondered what.
Well, yes, that was the thing. Like, as in, how can I teach? How can a son teach a father anything? How can a daughter teach him? Like what? Like what? But they do. Of course they do. But my point, my feeling was that it's not. It was never going to happen from me saying to him, and I don't think it would have been. I don't think me going, Dad, do you want to, go and see Nirvana? He would have been that chap. I mean, also my dad was like, I say in the book as well, he was born in 1938. His teenage years were in the 1950s. He was from a farming family. His dad was very strict. My grandfather, he never really had that. My mum, her teenage years were in the 60s, so I kind of both those kind of vibes in the house. My mum was kind of artistic and rebellious and anxious like me, and we're very similar. And my dad was kind of the kind of felt like a bygone era. And so me trying to explain that what I really wanted to do with my life was be in a rock and roll band for no money. After the 10th year of that, a guy born in 1938 is going to be asking some questions.
I like that combination of rebellious and anxious, because that's quite a... Ideally, you don't want the anxiety while you're rebelling.
I tell you what, I'm going to bet that quite a lot of rebellions have been run on anxiety. Yeah.
One of the lovely stories that you tell about your father is that, as you say, he was a very different generation, and you had very different political views, and he could be quite taciturn, but you are told by the man who plays guitar in your father's care home every week that your dad requests chasing cars every single week. It's very sweet. And when you find that out, you say, I wish I could talk to him about it, but he had dementia by that point, so that wasn't a conversation that you could have. But was finding that out, I found it really affecting reading that, because that obviously shows that, he was beyond proud to request the same song every week. Not even just, you've written quite a few songs.
He only knew the one.
He would?
He only knew the one. Yeah, it's funny. It's in the book. But I met the guy that played guitar in the nursing home every week outside. There's quite a funny bit where after he passed away, I had to go with the doctor to get the death certificate, and then go to the town hall to get the notary to write the death into the system or whatever, they have to do all these things. And then we got back to the nursing home, and outside was the guy that I'd never met him before, but he said, I play guitar for your dad every week. He always requests chasing cars, and I found that out in the car park. And then he said, how is he doing? And I wasn't able to, I just said, he's grand. And yeah, that little lie was really broke me. But yeah, it's funny you find these things out when you find them out. Why couldn't it have been a couple of days earlier?
I feel like that's it's always the way that it would be too. I don't know. It's almost like you need to find those little morsels of just love afterwards. You'd take them, if it was at the time, they wouldn't, I don't know, taste so sweet maybe. Maybe it's finding them out when it has passed, and that's something lovely that you always have. I was having a look at YouTube. I'm a millennial, so it's my favourite place. I don't look at TikTok, I look at YouTube. And I was rewatching some of the music videos, and just the nostalgia was like honestly like being punched in the face. And I was reading the comments underneath. I think it was like 38,000 underneath Chasing Cars. And I was in floods of tears because people were sharing their whole, I mean, very sad stories a lot of the time. You know, this is what I listened to when I had just lost my wife, or this is what I listened to. And I wondered, what is it like carrying, so you might not feel like you carry it, but the emotion, so many people's emotion attached to your music. And I imagine people must come up to you everywhere you go and say, oh my God, you know, this, your song got me through this, and your song got me through this. Like, do you ever feel like sort of the patron saint of heartbreak? Or, like, does it ever feel
I want that on
heavy?
my grave.
The patron saint. Does it ever feel, do you sometimes when people come and go, I played Chasing Cars at my wedding? Do you know, maybe people have played Chasing Cars at their wedding? I actually don't know. But does it, yeah, I just wondered if it ever felt heavy, because your songs historically have been songs that people are, you know, that they feel things to. It's not like jump up and get down is what I'm sort of saying. I just wondered if it ever weighed heavy, or if you're like, no, this is me, this is my music, I can't think of it any other way.
No, because I do think of it that way in terms of, I think songs, once you release a song, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It's not your song.
You see, I always hear this, and that sounds too chic. Do
No,
you really believe
it's
this?
you are just the delivery system for it. Everyone else gets to decide what it is. It gets to decide. Everybody in this room has got an idea of what. One of our songs is, everybody will have a different idea of it. It'll mean something different to everyone. And when you're playing in a room of 400 people, or 4,000 people, or 40,000 people, it's 40,000 different ways of perceiving that song, of experiencing that song, of experiencing the memories and nostalgia, as you say, of all the things that, like thinking about whether you listen to it for the first time on a road trip with your pals, or whether you heard it for the first time when, you know, God forbid, you know, somebody very close to you was passing away, or your wedding song, or whatever. It's all these different interpretations of the same song. You know, I want that. I don't want to tell everybody in the room, you're thinking about this wrong. I want you to think about, you can only listen to this song if you go with my viewpoint on it, because it doesn't really matter. I'm sure that I have a different view on what the song actually means of all my favourite songs than the person that wrote it, you know. And I don't do it deliberately, I just have, it's something instinctive in all of us. And I'm a real big believer in not getting too attached to a song. As long as, we don't let our songs be used in adverts. That's the one thing that we don't allow, kind of, I don't want it to be, you know, somebody's favourite song to be like name a car company. We're going to name a car company, but like, or you know, a razor, or you know, whatever. But I do love television. I do love movies. I do, you know, so songs being used.
Do you love Grey's Anatomy?
I didn't know Grey's Anatomy until they asked if we could use the song, and now I do know what Grey's Anatomy is. But it is funny. It is funny how we get, because people come up to me and go, or not so much people coming up to me and saying this, but on radio, especially in Australia, I don't know why, but especially in Australia, they ask questions as if I was involved in Grey's Anatomy, as if me and Nathan and Johnny are producers on the show, or writers on the show. Like, yes, we were a big part of it right at the start. We're just a song on it, and I know that we've had quite a few songs used on it now, and we love them for keeping on when we use our music, but But that, yeah, like people are going to have heard Chasing Cars for the first time on that show. Some people are going to have that, and they're going to have that memory in their heads when they listen to it live. I don't want to take any memories from people. I don't want to ruin anybody's experience of the song.
Have you collected some really bonkers anecdotes over the years? Has anyone come up and told you something about, you know, this is what your song means to me, and you walk away going, oh my God?
Not really. Everybody is so nice. Everybody really is genuinely so nice. It's not, and it's got to the point in my hometown of Bangor where it's not like people just go, right, Gary, how's it going? That's kind of it. And I love that because it makes me feel part of the community. There's not like, I think there was a moment in time we never really had the whole, you know, paparazzi following us around or, you know, all that sort of stuff. We were very lucky in that way. But there was a moment when it did feel like we were famous for a second or two, and I didn't like it that much. Whereas now,
Whereas you're not famous now.
I'm not famous. No, I'm not. I'm really not. It's like you can't walk anywhere, and I don't have. I know. I have friends. I have friends that are very, very famous, and they have to go out in disguises, and it's. I'm so glad to be able to live the life I want to live and still play. You know, we just did a UK tour playing in arenas in Ireland and all over Europe, and still get to play to 10, 15,000 people.
Both worlds, actually, isn't it? That you don't have to wear a comedy. I'm now trying to think of who all your friends are and what their disguises are.
I'm just saying that it's difficult.
Exactly
it's difficult for them to leave the house and just live a normal life.
No, you found the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's really what really comes through, not just from your writing, which is, I mean, I've said so many times, beautiful and poetic, but is how much you love literature and poetry. One of my favourite passages is when you're a schoolboy and you hear Seamus Heaney's poetry for the first time, and you feel like there should be fireworks and violence, and, you know, how can you be sitting in this really calm classroom when something like this has happened? And I felt really wistful because I hated everything I listened to at school, so I was like, it's school. And I was like, God, I'd love to have had a moment like that. But you clearly have always loved literature. Who are some of the poets and authors who have really influenced you as a prose writer, but also you as a songwriter?
Well, Seamus Heaney is the biggest one. It was my English teacher, Mr. McKee, who introduced our class in fourth form to Seamus Heaney. And, you know, he's part of the curriculum in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and all over Ireland, and as he should be. But I think if any other teacher had read it, or anybody had just read it, like, you know, okay, you know, between my finger and my thumb, squat, pen, rest, if it had been read like that, I wouldn't have woken up to it. But Mr. McKee, like, put on a performance.
How did he read it?
Well, he was had a I'm not going to do a Korean accent because I don't want people back home like give me guff. But he stood up straight in the classroom and really, James Heaney pun happening, dug in to it, and it's like between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests snug as a gun, and I was like, what? What is this even? It doesn't feel like something that's ever happened before, and I've read books before, and I've read, you know, like before I was 14 or 15 at the time, nothing had ever reached out and grabbed me, and his words just, by the end of the poem, when I write about it in the book, by the end of the poem, I was like, well, this is it. Now my life has changed. And at the end of the class, I went up to Mr. McKee and said, what else can I read? Can I give me the book that it's from, which is Death of a Naturalist? And I started to write poetry, and he edited my poetry and really encouraged me. And I got published as a 15-year-old and 16-year-old in various poetry anthologies. And it was because of him, and I started writing lyrics because of him, because of that moment, because of Seamus. And then a year later, Nirvana happened to me, and the two things kind of collided in my head, where music and poetry kind of just became everything I wanted to do and be involved in, and be surrounded by that noise and those beautiful words. And not mine. I mean, I wasn't writing at any kind of level at that point. I just was completely mesmerised by it all.
Have you been in touch with him since you left school?
Mr. McKee, yeah, a couple of times we went out for a cup of coffee, and he's come to a few shows as well, and it's weird calling a teacher by the first name.
Yeah,
Mark.
It feels very wrong, doesn't it? Very transgressive. What do you hope that people will take away most from the book? Because I was really pondering this, because I think there are lots of things that I took away, but I wondered or are you going to say that it no longer belongs to you, it belongs to everyone?
It doesn't anymore, I guess, but for anybody that's been through grief and experienced it in any kind of similar way to me, or in any way at all, and just maybe felt like they were grieving wrong, like you weren't, we all do it differently. I think that's what I found out writing this and speaking to other people that have been through the same thing, losing a parent, and almost everybody talked about it differently. And I began to realise that the way that I did it was, it's unusual, a year of numbness, followed by a torrent of tears, almost a year to the day from when he passed. It is unusual, but it's not unique. We all kind of have a different way, but it's a human thing, so it makes it similar as well. It's something that I don't wish on anyone, but if it happens, and this book is something that you might want to read, and I hope that it helps.
It's a beautiful book. I think it will help many people. We're going to have some audience questions now, and I think there's one roving mic. Do you want to pick the questions, or do you want me to pick the questions? Do you want to get the hand? Okay, there's a hand right in the middle there.
Two questions from the floor and then from the balcony, just to alternate.
Okay.
Hi, Gary. Hi. My question is about grief specifically. I think, looking at everyone here, we probably all have experienced some sort of grief. I remember reading Nick Cave's Hope, Faith and Carnage, if you know that book. He was talking about losing his son. I know it's very different to losing a parent, but it's grief after all. And I remember him talking about how he's now kind of almost on the other side of it. He really values life and joy and all the really positive things in life. And I was just wondering what you yourself kind of took out of your grief journey. Do you find more worth in life? Do you have you had any epiphanies or anything that came out for you?
Thank you for the lovely question. I have got to the other side of it in a way. I don't think it ever leaves. He's always there. Quite a lot of times, actually, he's there in telling me, like, what are you doing right now? I meditated at his gravesite on the fifth anniversary of his passing. I went and I sat, and it was torrential rain, and I sat cross-legged by his grave, and I meditated for about 15 minutes, and I was laughing for quite a lot of it, because I could almost hear him say, "What on earth are you doing, son? What kind of nonsense is this?" And it brought him to life, even if he was slagging me off, which I always loved. I wish I could have another minute of that. But yeah, I do an awful lot of things that I really love. I get in the sea every day in Belfast Loch. I think that's been the most healing thing for me after he passed, is being in the water every day when I'm home. So that has helped an awful lot. Anybody that's never been to Northern Ireland or Belfast. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. I've seen so many extraordinary things in that little bay. Seals and sea trout jumping out of the water, and double rainbows, and heron flying alongside me, and cormorants, and yeah. So I've had so much joy from doing that every day since he's been gone. So yeah, that's been the difference. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm so sorry.
I'm a bit confused by the mic.
Sorry, we're doing 2 on the ground and then 2 on the balcony. So
Two
1 on the ground and then 2 on the
Sorry,
balcony.
hold that, we'll come back to it. Okay, so we've got 1 more on the ground. Yes, I can see a hand there. Oh. Or you've already seen a hand there? Yeah, that's fine. We haven't got much of a system there, sorry.
It's a stupid question really compared to that, but have you ever watched Jaws?
That is a great question. Yes. And it's still terrifying. Even though not to, anyone that's not seen it, I mean, it's very clear that it's not a real shark. Sorry to break that, sort of the mysteries of Hollywood. But even so, I think what I'm afraid of is the fear that I had. Then I feel like I relive it when I've seen it. So it's not a movie I watch very often, but I have seen it again. I guess it was. Watch it backwards. Everybody's. Well, that's still terrifying. It's the woman at the start. Poor woman. Yeah, no, that's not a great ending either. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible tragedy both ways to watch. If you watch it forwards or backwards, there's not a lot of films that are like that.
I like that as a hack, though. So we're now going up. Just wondering if she's managed to run up with the microphone. Yeah?
This man here says that.
You got a microphone?
I do, thank you. Yeah. So a few years ago, we were all at home in lockdown, unable to move, all very depressed with anxiety. And you were one of the rock stars that had those like Zoom sessions, and I'd like to thank you for that. And one of those sessions, you said, "Well, let's write a song together," and you looked a bit surprised. And the song was written. So what happened with that song?
What happened with what song? Sorry, there's kind of a. I think we might be in a bad pocket here. But what's
I cannot hear me. Okay, so in one of those Zoom sessions over lockdown, you said, "Okay, let's write a song together," and apparently it happened. We wrote a song together. So what happened with that song?
No, we wrote 12 songs together, and we released 5 of those songs. So that's our fault really for not advertising it well enough. But we did this. I don't know how many people were involved. Hello. We wrote songs on Instagram live over lockdown. So Saturday songwriters. We wrote a song every Saturday for 12 weeks, I think, or 13, 14. And there was maybe 1,000 people on each Zoom, and then I think there was maybe 2,500 people on the credits for the album, for the EP. It's going to be a nightmare for all the publishing. No, I'm kidding. All the proceeds goes to charity. But yeah. So every Saturday we get together, and I would basically do like random melodies, and then everybody would pick which one they liked. So between 1 and 4, and then I would ask everybody if they want to. Give some lyric ideas, and so everybody gave lyric ideas, and I wrote them down as fast as I could because they were flying past me, like, wait, whoa! And then I would come back an hour later and play the song. we wrote, and we released 5 of them, and it's called Savvy Songwriters EP. It's on Spotify, and it's awesome. It's really awesome. It's got like played on the radio and everything, and the songs that we wrote online during lockdown. It was really wonderful getting to share music. Oh, thank you.
Hi, Gary. This isn't actually my question. This is my wife's question.
Okay.
So this is going to sound a bit strange, but you've been a big part of our relationship. So I'm going to put you over to Katie.
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
So, whenever I travelled to Ireland, Belfast, I was always on the lookout for you because I always said, if I meet Gary, I'm going to marry him. He can play guitar, he writes brilliant lyrics. I need this man in my life more than I already do. And then I met Darren. There's a bit of a similarity actually, apart from he can't write poetry and he can't play the guitar. But you know, he's alright in many other ways. But I did say, you need to know from the start, if I ever meet Gary, I will have to leave you for him. I've been to many concerts and never got close enough, so tonight's the night. Just say yes.
Just say yes, just say there's nothing holding you back.
I feel like it might be against the law to have 2 husbands, so...
Instead, he did actually have just say yes to propose to me, and I did walk down the aisle to give me strength.
Oh,
So-
that's beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations to you both.
Wasn't really a question.
This has taken a turn. I think we're now going back to down here if the microphone's raised its way back. I can hear a flurry of movement. Is there a microphone there? No? Okay, so take it.
Yep. If I was able to read... Which bit? No, I know the bit. I just don't know that I'm going to be able to get through it.
Just tell us the page.
Sorry?
Tell us the page.
I'll try. I mean, I can definitely tell you the page, but I'll try to read it. Okay. So this is after I finally wrote songs again. I had worried the year before that I would never hear from you again, that I would never get to ask you anything, that I would not know where you are and if you were anywhere at all. Turns out you were holding up the scaffolding of my whole world, so it wouldn't fall until I could hold it all by myself. So you were Atlas, tasked not with holding up the entire universe, but instead holding up the fabric of just one person's existence. Until I let go, you couldn't let go either. The world is only heavy if you try to lift it. When I put it down, I understand. This was always when I was supposed to put it down. I don't know if you're at peace now that you're not holding up the whole goddamn world for me, but I do hope you are. I don't know if the hole in the world you left behind will ever fill in completely, but I hope that it doesn't. I don't know what the atoms you left behind will turn into, but I know that we'll build a new life, and that life will endure. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for the things I said to you. But I'm sorry. And even though I can never tell you in your lifetime, I can tell you in mine. So let me say that I'm sorry, Dad. For it all. For everything I put you through. And I hope these words find you wherever you are. And finally, I really truly don't know much of anything at all, but one of the things I do know is that in this life and all past and future lives happening all at once and never and always, you are my Father, and I love you. Yeah, I'll tell you what, maybe we'll just do a couple of jokes or something. Sorry? Thank you. Yeah, but I had the lyrics right there. It'd be very difficult to mess that up. Well, I mean, the tears would have, I guess. Oh, there's more? Okay. Felt like a good end point, but okay.
Hi Gary.
Hello.
Big music fan of yours, but I haven't quite appreciated just how, what's the word, how articulate you were in terms of not just songwriting, but express the way that you express yourself. In the words, even the little bit that I've read this evening while we were waiting for you to come on. Have you ever thought about going a step further? You're a great performer, really charismatic. You take an awful lot of people with you. Have you ever thought about acting?
Acting? Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but this will be something that's on my grave as well. That was a joke, by the way. I don't know if you know this because I tell everybody, but I was in Game of Thrones, you know that? It was for 10 seconds, and I was on a horse that didn't like me, going past in a wide shot, very wide shot. Whatever the opposite of chewing scenery, that's me. Chewed by scenery, maybe. I'm not a good actor. I've tried, and I am as wooden as an entire forest. So no, but thank you. I like your confidence in me. I appreciate it. But acting won't be in my future, and it will not be in any way a loss for humanity. Yeah. I could never act with a mechanical shark.
That's all that we have time for, so can everyone please give a huge round of applause.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for coming. Take care of yourself.
Suave, excellent theatre, and then it'll be free to go as well. Thank you so much.